As recovery and cleanup efforts continue in central Texas following deadly flooding, it has become clear the rebuilding process will be costly. We can all see it, right? Data from FEMA shows that only 5 to 10% of homes in the hardest hit areas have flood insurance. Hear that again, 5 to 10%, which means that many who lost everything probably aren't insured. With us is President of the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, North Dakota Insurance Commissioner Jon Godfread. Thank you so much for being here today, Jon, because, I mean, when we watch it and we realize how much is lost, it's just devastating. And AccuWeather recently released preliminary numbers from the flash floods in Texas, saying that it costed an estimated $8 to $22 billion in total damage and economic loss so far. So let's talk about what that means for the residents of Central Texas. And what do you think about that number? 5 to 10% have flood insurance.
Unfortunately, it's not uncommon. That exists across the country because the flood insurance program is a different program than your standard homeowners policy, which is years and years and years ago is divorced from their standard policy and put under the federal government, the National Flood Insurance Program. And we've had a real challenge getting through to consumers to understand that if it rains where you're at, it can flood. And so having that flood insurance policy is absolutely critically important to protecting what is oftentimes your largest asset. We've been in talk with Congress about the reauthorization or restructuring of FEMA and looking at how do we put some more money towards pre-disaster mitigation versus always paying for the post-disaster recovery. And so we're encouraged by some of the conversations that this administration's have on addressing some of these urgent needs. But the reality is a lot of consumers across the country just don't purchase a flood insurance policy, partially because they don't realize they need to have it. They may think, I live on a hill, it never floods where I'm at.
Sure.
We go by the old adage, if it rains where you're at, it can flood.
You know what this reminds me of when we were covering Hurricane Sandy here in New York. And this happened to a lot of people on Long Island and New Jersey. It happened all over the place. And it was devastating. People are still trying to rebuild after that. And, we take a look at what Texas is dealing with. They experienced 20 weather and climate disasters in 2024. And yet, when we look at the numbers, only 7% of the statewide population has this flood insurance. So why is that number so low? You mentioned how to get it, but why don't more people have it?
Well, I think because they don't understand that it's not a part of their standard policy, right? Insurance is traditionally a state-regulated institution or industry. And so oftentimes the state insurance commissioner will oversee these policies, but you've got this separate standalone policy now that you need to have, which is your flood insurance policy, which, again, we've been advocating for a long time to, how do we get some more private flood insurance into the marketplace? It's really hard to compete in the private market when you've got an NFIP. And even have those conversations with Congress about how do we reauthorize this program to make sure it doesn't go bankrupt and these type of pieces. It's really confusing for consumers anytime you're talking about insurance, but then when you need to go layer it on another layer, another protection policy that you need to have, it makes it a challenge. And so it's a good agent's worth its weight in gold to talk through them and ask the questions about what happens if it floods, am I covered, and kind of walk through those different scenarios to make sure that, again, your largest asset is protected.
Right. Well, we know that this is going to be a very long road for a lot of people. Thank you for weighing in on it, Commissioner Jon Godfread. Thank you very much for being here today. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.